1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Monroe Mann back again with a return of a special guest, Scott DuPont, who had such a great time last time. He decided to come back again. Now, I will say the numbers have changed. Like August 31st was the last time you were here, right?
Wow, time flies.
Yeah, so it's been almost September, October, maybe about three months. The numbers have changed a lot. I would say like what we had before was maybe 25, 35 people. I think now maybe I'm happy if I have 7 to 15 people on these live streams these days. So the algorithm
Interesting.
changes constantly. What's up, V? How are you? Kids Cartoon Network. Great to see you guys. Thank you for joining us, JD Leader. I don't know if you guys were around when Scott was on last time. But Scott is a good friend of mine. He's also the creator of Finance Your Movie, which is a educational / consulting firm to help filmmakers primarily to make their films come true by helping them to raise the money. But Scott's also here for many other reasons as well, because he's a smart guy. He is also excited that the country has been reclaimed, and thought it would be great to have Scott back again since everyone had a great time with him before. So if any of you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Scott's eager to answer them. And of course, Scott, you can jump in and answer any questions you see and whatnot. And how are you?
Awesome. Great to be back. And any of the fine people on with us August 31st when I was last here? Just curious.
That's good. That's a good. Oh, I was just going to do a poll, but again, if you do it solo, I can do a poll. For some reason, when there's a guest, they do not let me do polls, so we'll have to do an audio poll, like you just said. If anyone knew, were any of you here when Scott was here last time? Just let us know if this is the first time you're meeting Scott. You can say that as well. And Scott's out in Los Angeles, as last I checked. I think maybe where he still is right now.
Yep, North Hollywood.
North Hollywood. But Scott
getting ready to
does have
see Gladiator 2 tomorrow.
I've heard good things and bad things. The good things are that that Denzel Washington apparently did a really good job with his performance. Bad thing, apparently there are a lot of historical inaccuracies. But I guess that's expected. I mean, the whole thing is not real.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a completely nonfiction piece.
Yeah. So, you know what movie I saw that it was probably one of the best movies I've seen in a really, really, really long time, and you'll laugh when I tell you what it was, but maybe you've seen it. But it's surprising. Venom 3.
Haven't seen it.
I'd say it's one of the best stories. Forget about the subject matter and the fact that it's a Marvel superhero type movie, science fiction. I mean, it's just alone had a great story. The characters were great. I was laughing the whole time, and it kept me interested. There was nothing, especially the fact that it's the third in a series. I was surprised. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but I recommend that. Scott will be able to tell us shortly whether he likes Gladiator 2.
Love the first one. It's a slightly different story, Denzel Washington. So I'll find out tomorrow. To answer your question, Aaron, I met Elon Musk probably about 10 or 12 years ago. We were shooting a documentary film called What is the Electric Car? And super nice guy. He was kind of being bombarded by a very, very early investor meeting. And I got kind of chat with him for a few minutes and eavesdropping on other conversations he was having. And it was fascinating to see his brain just spinning around so fast. I mean, the guy was just so knowledgeable in every single aspect of the production, of the electrical, the mechanics of the car, where he was on his fund. And I did not know at the time he was just about to go bankrupt. So it was a pretty precarious time the early days of Tesla when he was trying to get the Model S, which was really the first full production car out to the market. He had just bought a few Lotus chassis, and he had made his Roadster, which is limited. So anyway, um, I'm just really impressed with what the guy's done, and he's the smartest guy in the world as far as I'm concerned, or smartest guy I've met.
Excuse me, Scott. Excuse me.
You're a
All
top 10.
right, all right. Just let's not.
Monroe Mann is top 10. And to back it up, the reason I can say that with confidence is you have more initials behind your name than almost anyone I know, possibly anybody, with all your masters and doctorates and
See,
degrees.
so there is something that I can say I can top Elon Musk with. I always joke with people on the live stream, and I always say I'm just like Elon Musk. I'm just as eccentric. I'm just as much of a big thinker. I have just as many companies. I have just as much ambition. The only difference is I don't have the money or the success. But
Yet,
besides that, I'm
yes.
exactly. Thank you, Eva, for the very generous super chat of $30. Let me see if I can put you on the board here. So, Scott, I have this thing now called the Super Board, where I put people on here when they support the channel. So, number 25 for this month, Ava,
Wow.
$30, which brings us. I was at 247 before Ava did that, so I guess we're maybe around like 270. And thank you for supporting my Running for Famous campaign. It's a very difficult thing. It costs a lot of money, but you guys are supporting. By the way,
Well, that's
Scott has
I don't know how this all works, but that's pretty generous.
yeah, my fans have been really pretty fantastic, and I owe them a lot, and I always say thank you to all of them. Scott has just started his new channel here. It's the one that he's connected here on. I don't know if you can see it, but it's called. Is it just Finance Your Movie?
Finance your movie.
Finance Your Movie. So certainly, if you guys are interested in filmmaking and money, that's certainly a great. And if you just like Scott's cool personality, go and subscribe to his channel. And I'm sure he will eventually start doing live streams as well when he gets to the 50 subscriber threshold, and we can learn more from him about all of that. JD says it's the first time meeting Scott. It's a pleasure. V is asking, is the new Gladiator just a remake? I will just answer quickly. The answer is no. It's part two, but Scott might be able to tell us a little bit more in depth about why is it a follow-on? Is there any relation to the first one? What can you tell us, Scott?
I think a little bit, but it's just a new story, and Ridley Scott is directing again. Denzel Washington is a big star, and that's about all I know. I'm going to see it tomorrow. Some of the other movies that I've seen in advance that I would highly recommend checking out. One would be their performance with Jeremy Piven, Ari Gold from Entourage. Most incredible performance I've ever seen. Saturday Night, I think they're going to win Best Cast for sure. And they might get a nomination for Best Picture. It's the original 90 minutes before Saturday Night Live went live, I guess in 1977 or something like that. Fascinating. It's just like a ticking time bomb. Another great movie is September 5th. It was the actual ABC sports newsroom in Munich, Germany, when the terrorist attack occurred. It was fascinating historical movie, very, very accurate. And then Unstoppable, the true story about this wrestler, incredible competitive wrestler with one leg, kind of like a Rocky inspirational movie, true story.
When did you? I missed. I was daydreaming. I sometimes do that. What was the impetus for you talking about these different films that you're recommending?
I've just seen a lot of films the past 2 or 3 weeks because we're coming
Oh,
into award season. So they want us to see the movies before they come out, so we can vote
You know what?
Vote.
Something I haven't gotten anymore. I used to. You're in Screen Actors Guild, am I right?
Yeah.
I am too, and they used to send me all these screener films every Oscar season, and I'd get to watch them. Maybe is it because there's no one has DVD players anymore?
Well, you want to check. You want to check your status if you're active, if your dues are fully paid up. You should be getting screener links every single day because most of the movies are streaming.
Oh, that's what it is. I think I went on some like SAG where I don't have to pay my dues anymore or something like that. Like I'm
Yeah,
on.
like a temporary hold.
Okay, got it, got it.
And they are
That makes
sending out
sense.
some DVDs, but not as many. And then I'm also voting for the PGA, the Producers Guild, and also the IDA, the International Documentary Association.
Are you in Producers Guild?
Yeah.
So I've always wanted to know about this. I've never done any research into it. What are the requirements to join the Producers Guild?
You have to have a movie that's been theatrically released.
Hmm.
Uh, the one exception is if you've gotten one or two movies with a studio pipeline deal, like where your DVDs are at every single Walmart, or you got output by Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon, and then you have to be recommended by two producer guild members, active
Huh.
members, and then you go from there.
Do you think I'd qualify with "You Can't Kill Stephen King"? I'm trying to. It has to be theatrical in the United States,
Yeah,
or what was the other requirement?
or like a like these days if you have a Netflix pickup or a Hulu Amazon pickup, we can talk about and see if you qualify,
Yeah.
Monroe, if that's
I'm
of interest to
I
you.
don't I don't know necessarily if I'd want to join or anything like that, but I've never met anybody who's in the Producers Guild. You're the first person. I never even knew that you were in. So first of all, congratulations. That's really pretty impressive.
Thanks.
For those of you who don't know, at the end of movies, sometimes you will see somebody's name PGA. It's not the Professional Golf Association. It's Producers Guild of America, and every time I see it, I always go, huh. I just never. Obviously, it's not like something like some holy grail of hidden information. If I just ask ChatGPT, I'm sure I could find out. But here we get it from the horse's mouth of this. What a horrible comment. Like, why should I say the horse's mouth? As if that as if you have a mouth that looks like a horse. It doesn't. But he was drinking water from like a trough of a mug at the moment when I was saying that. So anyway, very cool. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Other comments. Ava says, "I wish I could stay and listen, but I need to run." Ava, I guess Ava just comes by sometimes and super chats and leaves. I appreciate it. She's just kind of like a supporter on the run. Art by a seed. I'm a seed. You gave me your card in Miami. Wow. Art by a seed or art by Assad. That's that's really cool. You're the first person who I think I gave one of those YouTube cards to who actually came back to my YouTube channel and said hello. I'd love to know where I met you. I've given out hundreds of those. I'd love to, if you could refresh my memory where it was. Cortez is asking, "Do you like sushi?" I'll answer first, and Scott, you can answer. I don't. I tried it once when I was a youngin in Long Island with my late uncle, and I choked so much that literally people thought they had to give me the Heimlich maneuver because I was so repulsed by the flavor and the taste and the texture. And it was one of those once bitten, twice shy things where I've never tried it again because it traumatized me so much. And people, if I take my own advice, would be, Monroe, maybe you should try it again. But I'm still don't like the idea of eating any types of raw seafood. How about you, Scott?
I love it. I love it. A little bit of wasabi, a little bit of soy sauce, salmon, tuna, eel, all kinds. Apparently, it's pretty healthy as long as you don't eat too much of it, and obviously try to stay away from too much of the bigger fish because of the mercury, which is a serious thing. There's a actress a lot of people might know, Daphne Zunga. You can look her up. She's been in probably 100 movies. Very, very famous. She was in that very popular show, 90210. Anyway, she got it. because when she was acting in her 20s, she was going out to sushi like every single day for lunch, and yeah, she had a tough comeback, but she's back to normal now. I guess there's a certain ways if you catch it early enough, you can detox your body.
Fascinating. I know what I like about Scott, among many things, things that I wouldn't expect that he would have knowledge about. He does. He seems to know whatever topic you bring up. Scott DuPont has something intelligent to say, and that's. I mean, look at that. He has an amazing story about. My only sushi story was I choked on it. Scott has got history, culture, and puts things into perspective. Art by Assad says, I'm an artist and this is my channel. Well, hey, Assad, the fact that you got my card, you're here because of that YouTube card that I gave you. I'm happy to recommend your channel to everyone. Check out Assad's Art by Assad channel, and keep in touch. Art by Assad, would love to learn more about your art. Maybe you could tell us in the chat what kind of art do you do, and what's so unique about your channel and the type of art that you bring to the world. And hello, Jamie. Jamie says hello, Monroe and Scott.
Hey, Jamie.
As you can see, Scott, like I said, it's a very different vibe from when we did this back in August. I don't know. The algorithm constantly changes, and it used to be. I don't know if it's only me. Some people have said they've had issues too, but it's sometimes hit or miss where we'll get 10, 20 people. Sometimes it's just 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know how it works now, but we
Well, it's
keep driving on.
quality, not quantity. So far, I've seen some quality people on here.
That is true. We've got quality. I will say this: the people that come and join are definitely high quality. And what Jamie always says, she's on some of my other live streams, and she always says, and V as well, who was here before, is it is disturbing to me being Jamie, how many viewers watch senseless lives on here, where literally it's just some guy sorting different colored balls, and there are 200 people watching that person. And so James asking, what's the topic for today? I didn't plan one out this time. It was just bringing back Scott, but Scott comes with a set of built-in topics because of who he is. And what I know is we could talk about politics and the state of America now, and the Trump victory, talking about filmmaking and raising money for films, which is something that Scott is very passionate and knowledgeable about. And certainly electric cars, because we talked about that with that Scott had met Elon Musk before. Scott produced this film about electric cars in America. So
Health and fitness.
health and fitness is another one as well. So if any of you have any particular topics that you want to discuss, and or Scott, if there's anything that is on your mind at the moment, I'm happy to let you guide the discussion. Otherwise,
How about you, Jamie? What do you want? What do you want to talk about?
and while Jamie is typing and or thinking, I will. I talk about this a lot on here, and I had a big Billy Bob. So, you know what's also very interesting about this whole YouTube thing? It also depends on the topic and what's going on. When I did my election, the day after the election, with Billy Bob celebrating, my little guy from Louisiana, I did have around 40 people back in here again. I don't know how YouTube runs that. Look, now we have 5 people. It went from 2, went to 5. So I just keep talking and kind of go with the flow. What are your thoughts about where America's going in the next 4 years now that Donald Trump is the president, that the conservatives have Congress, both houses of Congress? And then we'll jump into what Jamie has to say.
My viewpoint?
Yes, your viewpoint.
Um, so I'm optimistic because you've got somebody in there that is a lame duck. He's only got 4 years. He might not even be able to hit the ground running for 6 months, depending on how fast he gets his cabinet in there. But I think looking at the election, you had about 55 or 60% of the country. A lot of them didn't even like Trump. but they saw something in him that, hey, maybe he'll bring a little bit more transparency, and maybe some of the 5 or 6 different issues, including freedom of speech and transparency on that. Let's give this guy a shot, and let's see what happens. And so that's why I'm optimistic. And then whoever follows Trump, if the economy picks up, if gas prices fall, if inflation goes way, way down, if interest rates fall, if people feel better about their personal finances, I think whatever direction is set, because I personally think, and I'm not the only one, 79% of Americans thought we were going in the wrong direction. I think we're going to go more in the right direction, and some of the wars might be wrapped up in 60 days, which is also really exciting because I don't like a bunch of wars going all around the world with people dying, which is terrible. I feel for the people in Ukraine, the people in the Middle East, but I also don't think we should be paying hundreds of billions of dollars for endless wars overseas. You're a military veteran, Monroe. You can chime in on that.
The the main thing that you just reminded me about, I do agree with that. I think things are moving in the right direction. I saw an interview today with the CEO of the LA Times. I think he's from Hong Kong, if I remember, if I saw his name correctly. But he's a billionaire too. Like it's very interesting that so many of these newspapers are owned by billionaires. Washington Post by Bezos, LA Times by this gong. Like his last name is Doctor something something Soon. And he was on Fox News today, and 3 or 4 members of his editorial board resigned because they refused to. He said, "You will not." His proposal was, "I would like to put on the editorial page a summary of the policies of both parties, of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and let the people decide based on that." The editorial board, 3 or 4 members resigned,
Wow.
saying we are we are derelicting. Is that the word?
Derelict.
We are derelict in our duties to the American people if we do not support Kamala Harris and make it clear our argument why she is the person that we need to vote for.
Wow.
And he stuck to his guns, even though he said everyone has been attacking me like crazy. He was on Fox News today or yesterday and said, "I am not going to change my mind. The LA Times is going to have viewpoints from the left, the right, and the center. When it's a clear opinion, it's going to say an opinion. And when it's not, it's going to give all sides fair and balanced." I thought it was funny that he used the term fair and balanced because that's basically been what Fox News's uh, tagline has been for decades. But anyway, I was at the Wolfsonian Museum here in Miami Beach tonight. They do these presentations, and coincidentally, it was about yellow journalism back during William Randolph Hearst, and yellow journalism was basically using the newspapers to put just one side of the story and to try for political means at the time. And one of the
That's what's going on now.
Yeah, and that's so anyway, one of the people they brought in somebody new. There was a panel. Usually it's very apolitical, but started saying as Tara was talking, and she started saying, this woman, I think she's a professor at Florida International University or something, and she started saying, and I said, look, I mean, there's a little bit of this type of stuff. Mass media is no longer being trusted by the young people of today, and they're going to all these other sources: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, X, etc., for their news. And it's saying, I mean, there are, as you said, at least with Fox News and MSNBC, they wear their bias on their sleeve. And I said, excuse me, I said, can you stop for a moment? I said, no, Fox News does not have a bias. Fox News is telling the truth, and MSNBC has been telling lies. And she said, "Oh, well, that's just what your perspective is, and many of your friends on the left would say the same for." I said, excuse me. I mean, look what just happened in this country. And I started getting a little bit emotional, but I had to get out and walk out of the presentation because it was frustrating me so much. Like I thought that, oh my gosh, Donald Trump finally won, the conservatives won, this left-wing woke nonsense is gone, and yet here we are at a presentation. Again, it's only been a week, but it was like, am I still living in this nonsense of dystopian world where like literally people still think Fox News is telling lies when it's 100% the only honest news story out there? What do you think?
I used to think Fox was fair and balanced. I used to think that they were pretty truthful. I still think they are fairly truthful, but it's owned by an Australian guy with huge corporate advertising, a lot of pharmaceutical companies, a lot of the big war companies. So
Hmm.
you got to take that with a group of salt. Um, Jamie was mentioning RFK Jr. I've written about 5 or 6 different health books.
By the way,
Uh,
that if you can't read that because it's reversed, it's called the health pill.
it's called the health pill, and you can't really see it. It says there is no health pill, so it's kind of a play on words. Um, and here's my take on RFK Jr. because I have a lot of family members that say he's got a worm inside his brain. He's demented. Everyone in the family hates him. He's a radical. He's a liar. I try to take an independent view on everything. So I read his book, which is massive. It's his latest book. He's written a lot of books. Is called The Real Anthony Fauci. It's like 800 pages long. And what's fascinating about the book, I encourage all of you to read it, is every chapter, the chapters are very short, maybe 10 or 15 pages, but every chapter is followed by 10 pages of detailed footnotes, including links to references, court cases, YouTube videos, Instagram videos that are actually still there. And it's a shocking book. And my take for all those people who think he's a lunatic, a liar, all that stuff, he probably would have been sued, but I don't think anyone has successfully been able to win a suit because all the stuff he talks about is so well documented and backed up by facts and statistics. And that's something I really appreciate. I think he is, along with Vivek, along with Elon Musk, along with Trump, I think they really want to tackle this health epidemic so that we can get kids in this country, young people in this country, as healthy as they are in Japan and Denmark and Sweden and most other countries around the world, just not
What
ours.
What do you, Scott, and you in the audience here think? I don't really have an opinion. I haven't done enough research on it. I'm just trying to get some different perspectives on the fluoride in the water. I know for many years, many decades, that's been a staple of Americans' water supply. Robert F. Kennedy, one of his campaign talking points is to get rid of fluoride in the water stream. Scott, what do you think about that? And is there an alternate perspective? Is it black and white? How do you look at it?
It's not black and white for me, just because I don't have enough information. There's pros and cons, but I'm not educated enough to make a comment on that.
Okay. Let's see. I think. I mean, I they say just as just food for thought. Just what a little I know is that it's been in the water supply for ever since I was a kid in the U.S. and I don't feel like I've been damaged. So I'm what I want to find out, looking more into this, is why does Robert F. Kennedy believe that fluoride is unhealthy? Maybe just because why are you putting anything in your system that? But at the same time, then we have multivitamins, and I don't know. It's a very interesting topic, and if any of you in that stream, Jamie, you seem to know a lot about nutrition, and you've been following Bobby Kennedy. Do you know why he wants to remove fluoride, and should we do that? By the way, Jamie said before, I'm here to listen to the experts. I enjoyed the last time you, meaning Scott, were on. I was excited to see you came back. Great. I'm glad there's somebody here who is
Thanks, David.
a returning viewer from the last time Scott was here. Jamie says, I hope Bobby can get the toxic garbage out of our food. I have autoimmune issues and food played a huge part on literally if I can drag myself out of bed when I have a flare up. Scott, you seem like you wanted to chime in there.
100%. It starts with the food, and that's one thing that Bobby has been preaching. Um, I'll never forget. I went to a diabetes conference about 10 years ago in Copenhagen, Denmark, and changed a little bit there. 10 years ago, I looked around, and what was interesting is a lot of people back then, they've had a mass immigration. The country has changed. The food has changed a little bit. But I didn't. I was there for 3 or 4 days. I didn't, other than in the actual medical conference, I didn't see a single obese person. Like everyone looked really, really fit, young, healthy. And some of the things which were interesting. So there's the client that brought me over there, Novo Nordisk, or no Novartis. I do some consulting with them. I don't hired gun by any particular pharmaceutical company, and uh, I don't get into like being owned by them, so I can say this with clear conscience. They're developing a lot of drugs for the US, especially diabetic drugs, and some of those drugs they won't even allow to be sold in their own country, Denmark. The other interesting thing talking about foods is every day when I rode the train to the convention center from downtown Copenhagen, there'd be these vending machines in the subway system. And unlike our vending machines, I'm sure you're all familiar with, where you have candy bars, sodas, snacks like potato chips, Cheetos, their vending machine literally, it might have changed in 10 years, was water, apple juice, orange juice, a real orange, a real apple, basically real food in a vending machine. I was like, wow. And then you go around the sidewalks, it's all farmer market stuff. Even the supermarket doesn't have nearly as much packaged and shrink wrapped and canned foods. Most of the food there is fresh, like real food that grows out of the ground, hangs off a tree, or is sprouted,
Excellent.
or animals munching on real grass.
This is Scott DuPont, by the way, for anyone who's just joining us. My name is Monroe Mann, YouTube's coolest #1 live streamer and #1 guest, Scott DuPont. Please click like if you like what you see. Certainly, please subscribe, turn on the bell. Scott's channel is called Finance Your Movie. Check that out. He's an expert in raising money for films and helping to get films produced. He lives out in Hollywood, and if you need someone to help out there, he is your man. Jamie says, I think he'll get a lot of pushback from lobbyists and the politicians that are in their pockets. So, Jamie, I always correct grammar. As you know, from the politicians, who, because that is for a thing and a who is for a person. But I won't put you on the wall of shame today since we've got a special guest and I don't want to embarrass you any further. So, I read that, what was that? What RFK's #1 missions as head of health and human services, I think he was just appointed or nominated for that cabinet position, is he wants to get rid of a number of the departments that he actually oversees, such as Department of Nutrition. He says does the exact opposite of that. He says it just operates to help promote the agendas of corporations and pharmaceutical companies and things like that. And it's true. I remember a lot of times the one thing I'll say is I agree that a lot of students in their lunches are not as healthy as they should be. But sometimes I feel like it can go overboard too, because I think part of being a kid is getting to have a little bit of a sweet here and there. So I'm hoping there's some balance. You don't want to have 5,000 cookies, but I don't think there's anything wrong. And if I were a parent, I would certainly want, if my child's getting a lunch at school, I hope that my child could get a little tiny bowl of ice cream or a little bit of a cookie or something like that. but I don't really know what. Yeah, I don't know. This is not
There's
my
there's
area of
going to be there's
expertise.
definitely going to be some pushback from the lobbyists, the big food conglomerates, the big pharmaceutical companies. Um, there's going to be pushback from the school unions on the Department of Education. There's going to be pushback from the war machine if Trump tries to. I forget who. Tulsi Gabbard's going to be involved with that. Scaling back all the wars. But I don't. I think there's a pretty good team that can start that process, and over time, we can make some great progress. Didn't just happen overnight, and we're not going to be able to rein it in overnight. But I'm very, very optimistic things will be changing, and a lot more transparency for us, the taxpayers.
Have you heard of Kalshi, the betting market app? So
Is that the one where they were doing the political elections?
well, there's two of them. Polymarket. They're both American companies, but
I've heard of Polymarket.
Polymarket is and it's very strange. Polymarket's an American betting app on world events. No American can make bets on it, only people outside the country. Kalshi is the exact opposite. It's the same thing, but only Americans can bet on world events and foreigners can't. And one of the bets, and I got this app, one of the bets was who will join Trump's administration. And they had a big list of all these different people. And I picked Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, among a few others. And it basically said the rules, and you guys know I'm a lawyer, and I'm having a big argument with their legal department now because I'm very upset with them. Was will any of these people, blah, 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 join Trump's administration as part of the cabinet or a policy advisor? There's no definition of what a policy advisor is. But we knew that Elon Musk was not going to join the cabinet because he runs all these different companies and he cannot, I don't think, be a part of. I don't think he was going to divest his interest in all of these companies to become an official member of the cabinet. But I made a bet on Vivek and Trump, and excuse me, and Musk because I saw that or policy advisor. I didn't put a whole bunch of money in, so I didn't lose a lot. I put I think $50 on each of them, and if it was if the bet resolves to yes by March of 2025, then I would have made about $200 on each of them. For some reason, when Trump announced that Vivek and Musk were going to head up Doge, which we all knew was going to be the situation, suddenly all of the bets changed. And now it says it's a 90% for both of them as no. And I've been talking to Kalshi going the whole time. I said, what is going on here? It clearly says or policy advisor, and then suddenly they change it and they say now there's a disclaimer. Becoming a part of Doge, if it is a non-governmental entity, does not satisfy the terms of this bet. And now I sent a letter to their legal department, and I honestly, I've never thought about starting a class action lawsuit in my life, and for me, it's only I lost $100, but there are some people who put tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars onto this bet that Vivek and Musk were going to join the administration based on this understanding that or policy advisor. I'm curious what you guys think. I just gave you some legal facts and what that contract says. It says or legal advisor. It doesn't say they had to be a formal part of the Trump administration. It said or legal advisor. And certainly Musk and Vivek are legal advisors. And certainly they're at the behest of the Trump administration saying, cut as much waste out of the government as possible. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that my argument is correct? Because I think they're in a big legal problem. And I think it's going to cause major, because anybody who put money on this now is, whichever way they go, is going to feel they lost money and that Kalshi lied to them. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I think a legal advisor, a policy advisor, they certainly are that. I'd have to really get into the fine print and see if that in any disclaimer way down on when you submitted money, like, hey, we reserve the right to change the terms, conditions, the odds as things evolve. You're the lawyer, you can dig into that.
Yeah. No, it's what my homework is over the next week, because I'm part of me was thinking, like, I could be the law firm that starts the class action and get all of these other folks to come on board, and then I could fight to get some of their money back. I don't know if I'd ever do that. I always come up with lots of ideas, and I don't necessarily decide I want to pursue it. But I just found that a very interesting thing. And if you do get involved with any of these betting apps, I'm not putting any more money into any of them, because they
I
changed
haven't.
the terms. It's like that's why I think this could be a potential contract violation, a breach of contract on their side. But anyway, I thought that I'd bring it up because we mentioned Trump, Elon, Bobby, and all of visas. Hopefully, they can deliver. And
I think speaking of legal, I think there's going to be an investigation to what happened to Alex Jones, I guess yesterday,
yeah, with the Onion,
taking him taking him off the air because it seems like they changed the terms and conditions of the bid at the last minute, and then they without
when you say take him off
official.
the air, is it when you're talking about on a YouTube channel, or is it on a television show? What do you mean, or on radio?
He used to have this show as of yesterday called InfoWars, and they
Yeah.
literally went to his studio in Austin, Texas, and they cut the feed. Everything went dark. So where he was broadcasting, all of his platforms
Whoa!
went
So
dark.
that's
They
why
cut him off.
that they had the emergency injunction by Infowars lawyer. Did you see that? And the judge involved, and
Yeah, I
basically,
mean, there's all kinds of legal stuff
well,
going
basically
on
they just said
right
it's
now.
like they think now a judge ruled saying, "Hold up, not so fast. Onion cannot take over," because we think the judge said, "I think it may have been an improper, um, whatever, acquisition or decision or something." So I have been reading a little bit about that.
And
Fascinating.
they did stop him from taking over alexjones.com and at real Alex Jones, uh, because they thought that would infringe on his personal rights as an individual. So he's
Mm.
still got a small mouthpiece through there, but they almost like stripped him of his actual name and his ability to talk to anybody.
So it's interesting. You gave a different perspective, because all I heard was that the Onion won a bid to buy it, and then yesterday I read, or today, that a judge just intervened and said, "Not so fast, Onion. We need to review this acquisition." So maybe Alex Jones
Interesting.
will get it back. We'll have to see. Let me look at some more comments here. Jamie says, "I think the issue is there's so much fluoride in water, toothpaste, food. Too much can lead to brittle bones, joint issues, mess up your kidneys, and liver." Fascinating, Jamie. Now that's a logical argument, because it's true. My toothpaste has fluoride in it. I'm. What foods do you know of that have fluoride? Is it a naturally occurring vitamin or mineral or whatever in foods, or is it an additive that's been being put in? And V retracted a message before any of us got to see it. You naughty boy, Jamie. I want to argue with you, but you're right on the who that rule. Good. There you go. That's right. Dang it. I was too passionate for proper grammar. I tell you this, my my Achilles heel, and you guys know this because if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, is my emotions. Some people have a different, and you talk about passionate, and it's just a fascinating topic that. And I'm reading these books by Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and all that, and learning about
Oh
being a
wow.
stoic, and the idea of, if you a stoic is one of their main tenets is emotion is the destroyer of everything. It's like, and do not listen to it in any way, shape, or form. But I fully know, and I look back on my life, and I'm sure all of us can. Passion, emotion can sometimes overtake us. And I know from in my perspective, I've made some poor decisions under emotional duress. How about you, Scott? Do you have any stories or anecdotes or about emotion and passion and how that's affected you in life?
Um, Luckily, I learned some lessons many years ago, um, and I've instilled some rules for life and business. One is never ever ever respond to an email in the moment. I mean, I have some things that can really trigger me. We all do, every single one on the chat. So I'll calmly read it. I'll put down some initial thoughts. I'll work on that email. I'll save it as a draft. I'll wake up early the next morning and I'll have a slightly different viewpoint. Maybe I'll see the viewpoint of the person, why they sent such a charged email. And that's really served me well. It's been kind of a diplomatic tool because at the end of the day, I want what I want through negotiation. And you can often get what you want better through diplomacy and honey than by brute force, because a lot of people will lash out or whatever. Um, and then the other thing is, um, just never judge people unless you've walked in their shoes, because you don't know if like there's a great Tony Robbins. I'll try to tell it in 60 seconds because it's such an amazing true story that Tony shared. He was on a subway in New York many years ago, and there was this dad sitting next to him. You relate to this, Monroe. You ride the subways in New York all the time, or you used to. And this kid, these two kids are like playing around the subway, like just out of control. And one kid has this little truck, and he like keeps like hitting Tony's shoe, like scuffing his shoe. And the other girl, like two little kids, like 2, 3, 4 years old. The other one keeps bumping into them, and they just seem like they're aimless. And the dad has no control over these kids. And Tony's just sitting there, like, he certainly can't read his book he's trying to read. He's like dealing with these two kids coming into his space. And finally, he goes to the guy next to him. He goes, "Sir," and Tony's a big guy. He's like 6'5", 280 pounds. "Sir, would you please manage your kids?" And the guy looks up at Tony and he just starts breaking down in tears. And he goes, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We just came from the hospital and these kids just lost their mother 30 minutes ago. And I don't know what to tell them. I don't know what to do." So the point is, you don't always know what other people are going through that can create an argument or an attack or some stupid.
Beautiful. That's a really touching story.
That was a powerful
Yeah,
story.
it's a.
And to hear it directly from Tony's lips was very powerful the first time I heard him say that.
Have you talked to Tony Robbins? Have you had an opportunity to chat with him? I know you've done.
Oh yeah. No, I've attended several of his live events. I've crewed for some of his events. I also did some production work for a video he was making about the firewalk. So I've interacted with him a little bit. Super nice guy, and one of the most altruistic people I've ever met on the planet. Him and John Travolta, like when they're talking to you, when you're in their presence, it's not fake. Like they're literally like looking into your eyes, listening to what you have to say, and they really care about the other person.
Why don't you think there has not been a new Tony Robbins? Like Tony Robbins seems to still be in a class of one as when you think of motivational speaker, you think, I mean, in the old days, it was Og Mandino, there was Dale Carnegie. I mean, there were a lot of different. Now it just seems there's Tony Robbins, and then all these satellite lesser public speakers. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I would agree with that. I would say there's probably 9 or 10 others that are in the top 10 category. Very that can fill a stadium with 15, 25,000 people.
Do you know any of those offhand? Their
People have,
names?
well, Dean Graziosi's one that draws
Yeah.
a huge crowd, and trying to think of another one. God, he's there's some that have kind of specialties. What appeals to Tony? He did a ton of marketing for years, like with the Personal Power, all the infomercials he did, and I think he certainly is the Michael Jordan, meaning he is the benchmark. I don't know if there will ever be someone at his level. There may be, but just like there's a Tiger Woods of golf, and most of the people are not quite at the Tiger Woods level. If
But
you look at the
I think
older,
the difference, like, I am not in the world of professional golf at all, in any way, shape, or form, and I am, in some ways, I am enmeshed in the world of public speaking, and I just did those 2 TEDx talks, and so I'm in that world, and yet I still really only know Tony Robbins as the really great public speaker. I do have Dean Grazioso's book, but I didn't know that he was at the same level as Tony Robbins. Meanwhile, in
he's
professional
below.
golf,
He's below.
I mean, but he's still in that. I could name 10 professional
Nicola Knight.
golf.
I mean, there are people. God, what's that? What's that guy? He was on the Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Oh, Jack Canfield, Mark Victor
Yeah,
Hansen.
Jack Canfield. I mean, but yeah, they're not quite as high as Tony's. He is the benchmark.
Yeah, very.
Elon Musk is the benchmark of business people. Michael Jordan is the benchmark of basketball players.
That is fascinating that Michael Jordan, even today, is still probably the world's most famous basketball player. Would you agree?
Yeah, and he probably makes more money from endorsements than any other basketball
Yeah,
player.
I,
He's
I
just
think it's because of that. I think we talked about this the last time, because of that deal that he made with Nike for Air Jordan.
yeah,
And he gets a percentage of every single shoe that gets sold, and it's still they still make Air Jordans today. Which
yeah,
goes to
incredible.
show why it's good to have a good mama and a good lawyer. You put a good mom and a good lawyer together, you can do some really great things. By the way, just as a
Yeah,
quick interlude, we're at 8 likes. When we get to 10 likes, we get the bronze medal on the YouTube live stream Olympics. I'm hoping whoever the 2 other people who have not done yet can click the screen and get us there. Hope you'll please subscribe to my channel and click the bell for notifications. We do comedy, music, talking about law, psychology, special guests such as the great Scott DuPont here. I'm having, stay tuned, I have another Dr. Beatrice, who's going to be a guest later this week or next week, and also Tony nominated Broadway star Chad Kimball will also be a guest, I think, next week as
oh,
well.
awesome.
I don't know. Did you ever meet? Did I have you meet Chad Kimball, Scott?
I've heard the name, haven't met him.
All right. You know what I want to figure out how to do at some point on here, which would be cool, is I know I could do it with StreamYard or stuff in that, is you can have multiple guests, but I haven't really investigated that. I do kind of like the one-on-one nature of just having a one person who's the guest, but I can see how it might be cool to have a little round table. We could like do a financing round table or something for film and bring on a few different people to talk about that. Something to look at in the future. And by the way, also this is Scott DuPont, a filmmaker, actor, spokesman, host, speaker, and his channel is Finance Your Movie, and I believe your website is financeyourmovie.com as well.
Yeah, yeah.
financeyourmovie.com. V chat says going to need to grow a lot more healthy vegetables, grains to supply the country. Healthy foods cost more and are more sparse. I don't know if you've heard of somewhere in Iceland, I think, or it's in the Arctic, but it's in this basically in the side of a ice covered mountain is the global seed reserve. And I think it's controlled by the UN or it's controlled by some not for profit affiliated with it. But there apparently is every type of seed in the world is saved there. So that if there is some horrible catastrophe, we could still grow apples again. We could still grow oak trees. We could still grow ivy. We could still grow
Interesting. Seed
pumpkins.
vault.
Yeah, it's and a lot of people have never heard about it, but if you look up global seed vault on the internet. It's a fascinating thing. But V, you mentioned that is what I think Trump and Ramaswamy said want to do. Not only do they want to build up the strategic oil reserve again, which the Biden administration depleted dramatically, but also want to create self-sufficiency on a lot of different areas. And I think vegetables and grains, I think, is indeed one of them. Jamie
So,
says,
the point about expensive food, yes, in many cases, real food, especially organic fruits and vegetables, are more expensive than just a packaged thing of mac and cheese, or a can of something that's been made in a factory. But if you look at the from a macroeconomic perspective, if you look at the trillions of dollars, well, at
that
least
was
that's
my dinner
Anderson.
tonight: processed
At
foods.
least it's Anderson's organic. Um, on a macroeconomic level, if you look at the trillions of dollars, if we were to scale back some of those trillions from not having all those wars and not putting money into the military industrial complex, not putting as much money into pharmaceuticals, not putting as much money into cancer treatments and oncology, elevated disease states. If some of that money, this is what RFK is talking about, goes to feeding everybody on a preventative measure, healthy foods, there's going to be less sickness, less cancer, less disease, less pharmaceuticals, and probably less wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do agree. I wish that on one hand, I will defend the processed food industry to the extent that I am grateful, because otherwise I probably would not eat, because
No,
I don't.
it's amazing, but we got to balance it with more healthy foods.
But I do agree that we need. The truth is, why do I need to take multivitamins? Because I'm not getting enough nutrients naturally through the food that I eat, because I'm not eating. Not only am I not eating healthy foods, but these processed foods that I am eating, they just don't have as much of the energy and vitamins and minerals that our bodies need. So uh, I, 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 I think that's a very, very good thing that we're looking into. Jamie says people aren't going to eat more vegetables. Look at all the extra stuff they put in our food that isn't allowed in other countries, all the dyes that do nothing but make them pretty. RFK said something funny the other day, or I read a quote, maybe he said it at one of Trump's rallies. Whether it's true or not, or just in the line of MAGA hyperbolic statements, but he said, look at Fruit Loops. In the United States, there are something like 29 ingredients in the Fruit Loops. In Canada, there are 3.
It's true.
And I don't know if that is true and there really is only 3 ingredients, but what I will say, as someone who's lived all around the world, foods taste different in different countries. If you go to a McDonald's in Paris, and then you go to McDonald's in Shanghai, you go to McDonald's in Barcelona, the Big Mac will taste different. The chicken nuggets do taste different. So, on one hand, I agree that I think we should try to reduce the amount of artificial flavorings and colors and ingredients, but I don't want anything that RFK does to sacrifice the flavor. Cereals have gotten less tasty since I was a kid. Maybe my taste buds have evolved in some way, but I really do think that in the effort to make cereals more healthy, a lot of our foods aren't as appetizing. I don't know if any of you remember, maybe you disagree, but were not McDonald's French fries better tasting in the 1980s than they are today? Scott, do you like
Yeah,
McDonald's? And
different chemicals. I mean, they're adapting ingredients, preservatives, chemicals every single year, and it's regulated by our FDA. Whereas a lot of the other countries, they have much. I can tell you specifically in Denmark because I was there. They're very strict about their food policies, and that's why it's one of the healthiest developed countries in the world.
but does their cereals taste good? That's my question,
I
Scott.
don't know. I don't know.
But I believe that it's possible. I think either extreme is not a good. I don't want to go so healthy that we can't enjoy life anymore. And at the same time, I don't want
That's
it.
never going to be taken away because that would impede on our freedoms. So one of the, and I forget who it was that was talking about this. Um, it was some guy I really respect. He said, let's look just in California because they have the largest population of people on food stamps, an EBT card.
Mhm.
Now, and I don't know what percentage of people in California are on food stamps. It's probably, I don't know, 20, 30%. It's a large group of the population that's taxpayer funded. Now, when you go to buy your food with your EBT card and you try to buy cigarettes, you try to buy alcohol, and then you swipe the card, it'll flag the alcohol and the cigarettes. You can
Mhm.
buy them. There's no law that says you can't buy cancer sticks. You can't buy alcohol. I'm not judging anyone who does that. But the taxpayers are paying for that. So one of the things the new administration wants to do,
Mm.
we have the technology on all the EBT cards for all the states. If you want to buy Fruit Loops, if you want to buy Cheetos, if you want to buy a 2 liter, you want to buy anything you want, God bless you. Okay.
Mhm.
But taxpayers shouldn't be funding that. So the taxpayer money that we're all paying for, those should go more to the healthier food. That to me makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I
And
agree.
I've seen, and I'm not, once again, I'm not judging, but I have seen in North Hollywood, John's grocery store right down the block, I have literally seen on multiple occasions uh, a morbidly obese mother, let's say 250 pounds, with 3 or 4 kids that are each over 100, 150. And these are little kids, but they're already 150 pounds, like third grader. I mean, they're all morbidly obese. And the shopping cart is nothing but junk food. I
Mhm.
guarantee if we're subsidizing their food, we're also subsidizing them through California has this, I think it's called CalMed, where people under a certain income level get completely free healthcare and completely free type 2 diabetes and prescription drugs. That to me makes no sense. We're subsidizing them both ways.
Mhm.
Mhm. Now, if you look at that argument and you also tie in something that Dr. Peter Navarro, the great Trump economist, has suggested, why don't we open up healthcare so it's not just 2 or 3 healthcare companies within California, but why don't we do what we did with the car insurance years and years ago? We open it up to all 50 states. So all of a sudden, if you want to buy healthcare, you can compete with companies all over the country. Competition will drive down prices. And also, one thing we started doing, I think back in the 1960s or 1970s, with car insurance, if you're a safe driver, if you have no tickets, if you have no accidents, you get a lower insurance on your car. If you have a zillion speeding tickets, if you a DUI, all this stuff, you pay a higher premium. Why not do that for people's health?
Mhm.
Mhm.
But
Right?
I'm in Florida, and I guess because I mean it's the first time that I saw the flip side of freedom. I've always been 100% pro freedom and independence, but the freedom. that drivers have in Florida, because I don't think there is enough taxes in Florida budget, or the government's just not spending money. They don't have a lot of highway patrol. And I've never seen anybody pulled over on the side of the road on Interstate 95 or on any of these other highways here in Florida for speeding. As a result, we have the craziest drivers. I mean, literally reckless and dangerous. In New York, you might have a-hole drivers, very rude. Here you have truly frightening and scary drivers. As a result, I thought I was paying a lot, $80 a month for auto insurance in New York. When I came down here, as soon as I switched insurance, $150 a month.
Well, you're
More,
also in a big city, Miami. A lot of carjackings down there. A lot of
but what I was going to say is the fact that there why hasn't the competition kept the insurance rates lower down here as well? I am a perfect driver. I am like, why is like they it is annoying that all of the bad behavior of all these other people is impacting me. I have to pay twice as much for insurance because the state of Florida doesn't do its job to prevent these young kids from driving around on their souped up Hondas and Nissans at 120 miles per hour. I don't know. I don't know if that's the reason. And if I'm wrong, maybe somebody can correct me. But it upsets me that it and so many all the because of all the floods and the hurricanes and this and that. So many insurance companies are leaving. They're leaving Florida in droves. So it is impossible. People are selling their condos now and selling their homes because not because they can't afford the mortgage. Well, it is because the mortgage is I mean, it's wrapped. The insurance rates are often wrapped up in the mortgage, but because there's no one who wants to insure homes in Florida anymore. So they're all leaving. So the one who's left is a monopoly, and they can charge whatever they want. So I kind of understand what you're saying, but on the other hand, what happens when competition drives out everybody because there's no profit and there's only a price gouger who's left? Or I don't know. I
well,
don't know. Go
yeah. No,
ahead.
I don't want to go down that whole rabbit trail, but I will say that one of the factors that the insurance companies rate, there's a disproportionate amount of older senior citizens in Florida, especially Miami-Dade counties,
Hmm.
and that's part of the thing. It was a lot. It was a lot less up in Orlando.
You're telling me it's not the young kids driving like maniacs. You're saying it's the elderly.
Primarily on the surface, that makes no sense. But if you have tens of thousands of senior citizens in their 80s or 90s, and they pull out and hit somebody, fender bender, they like pass out, they have a stroke.
Mm.
That's a little bit more common than these 18-year-olds with the Fast and Furious cars.
I appreciate you enlightening me that as another possibility of why it's so high, because Florida is home to so many more folks over 75 years old. So but I tell you this, that's another thing too. I've My father was when he passed away, he was 95. He was driving until I think he was around 92, and he should have had his license taken away at probably 80. And he was getting into a bunch of these fender benders
There you
constantly.
go. Same
And
thing with my mom. My mom got into two or three fender benders, totaled a car. We finally took the keys away at 83 or 85.
and this is where freedom has to have a limit, because like what do you say, the whole transgender debate is your freedom ends when it impinges on mine, or infringes on my safety, or impinges on my. I feel like it's the same thing with these drivers, the elderly drivers. I wouldn't be opposed to maybe like if you want to keep your driver's license above the age of 75, you need to have a driving test every year.
100%.
And
I agree with that.
and because I mean you're driving
100%.
right?
Because it's not necessarily the age. I think age is a big factor, but you could be 89 and sharp as a tack. Somebody
Mhm.
could be 75 and starting to lose it. Or maybe they have glaucoma in their eyes and they don't see well at night.
And look at Joe. Look at Joe Biden too. God bless the man as an elderly, and I have had family members who've had dementia and stuff. But if you're the president of the United States, like, why is there such a outcry against the president and the vice president and members of Congress? They should all have multiple. Like, you should have 3 mental tests per year by independent
100%. 100% agree with that.
doctors. You are controlling the most powerful nation in the world, and you guys are balking that the citizens want you to prove
100% agree.
mental fitness.
And if you don't take a cognitive test at least once a year for those high offices, then you forfeit the presidency, the vice presidency, the speaker, whatever it is.
Yeah, I,
Pilots do it.
and
If a pilot doesn't take a test, they don't
a
fly.
pilot every year they need to have a fitness test to make sure they are not going to put themselves or their passengers or somebody on the ground that they crash into if they have a heart attack while they're. So yeah,
What about the leader leading 340 million people? Shouldn't he take a test or she
yeah,
take a test?
yeah. So case
Anyway,
case closed on
I
that
think
one.
I think we're going to get back to some common sense things, like the whole voting thing. The legislature is supposed to, in individual states, make voting laws and regulations. That's
Hmm.
the way it's supposed to be. Apparently, there was an executive order in California a couple weeks before the election when I went to turn in my ballot in person because I don't necessarily trust the mail. I think a
Hmm.
vote is a pretty sacred thing. I took out my license. I go, "Do you need to check my license?" I was like, "No, no, 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 no. Put it away. We can't even ask you for that. It's illegal for us to even ask for any kind of ID or proof." And
Oh,
I'm like, common sense, paper ballot, voter ID, signature verification. I got to show my ID to get on a plane to buy a
yeah.
bottle of beer.
I feel like what's happened is the things that we should show ID for and show or proof of citizenship, or the things that we should have laws for, and we don't, and the things that we shouldn't have them for, we do. And it's like it's a complete everything's turned on its head. And as I hope, as you said, I hope that things turn a little bit more commonsensical. Let me look at some comments here. Hong Kong says the Hong Kong is here. Hello, Hong Kong. Great to have you here. Barbara, hello. Great to see you. Nicola, hello, my fake British wife. Good to see you too. So powerful and very moving. Thank you, Nicola, for joining our conversation here. Barbara says, "Can you tell him to say hi to me?" Will you say hi to Barbara? She's very temperamental. She needs love
Hey,
and
Barbara.
affection. Okay. V also said hi to Barbara. Jamie says hi, Nicola and Barbara. Barbara, how's it going? V. Seed Vault. Monsanto left the chat, says V. That's funny.
That's a good
Uh,
one.
you guys having a little conversation in there. I'm doing amazing. Just bought a new house and it's awesome. Congratulations, Barbara.
Wow, congratulations.
That's a huge accomplishment.
Accomplishment.
And especially in this economy, wherever you are in the world, if you can buy a home right now, good job. Congratulations. Barbara, if you want to tell us a little bit about your house, I'm sure you're very proud of it. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about it, why you bought it, where you bought it, what is your favorite room in the house? We can bring that into the conversation here. Jamie says you can use food stamps on fast food and DoorDash now, at least in Ohio. Talk about a waste of money and zero health benefits. Crazy, Jamie. Jamie is our resident DoorDash expert and also our I
We're
don't know
going
if
to get back to common sense. We're going in that direction.
Goku Black. Hello, great to have you here. Thanks for joining. By the way, we got to 10 likes, which is wonderful. We got the bronze medal. YouTube live stream Olympics. Next stop is 15. Maybe we'll get there. Maybe we're not. Scott, are you good for a little bit longer?
I've got about 15 minutes left
Okay, that sounds great. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, it'll bring
to
us
hang
to a
out with
full
these
hour and
fine people.
and let me see. What is there? Since we were just talking about Barbara's home. what's the real estate market like in California now? Is it hopping, popping? Are the interest rates keeping people from buying?
It's well, LA, kind of like San Francisco, San Diego, all the major cities in LA. It's absolutely insane. Let me give you a reference. So my girlfriend, she just became my fiance this past weekend. My
Congratulations.
fiance, my future brother-in-law, my future sister-in-law, the three of them, they live together in a house in LA. They wanted to buy a house. They're all dentists. All three of them. Dentists usually make a pretty good living. They couldn't afford to buy a house in LA.
Mm.
What is there? I mean, they looked at one in Burbank. It was a very small house, maybe 1,200 square feet. Remember, it's three of them, so they wanted a little bit more room. They didn't just want to get like a two-bedroom bungalow or something like that. Like $1.2 million tear down, like a tear down. So they ended up moving up to Northern California for about the same price. They bought this huge mansion overlooking Folsom Lake, beautiful place called El Dorado Hills. So it's just insanity. But there are other places in the country like West Virginia, Tennessee, Texas, where you can still, Oklahoma, you can still buy a home for a reasonable price, well under $1 million.
Would you ever consider leaving Los Angeles?
Oh, absolutely.
What would why absolutely, and what would it take for you to move? And if so, where would you consider going to?
Some place where there's no income tax, like
Hmm.
Florida, Texas, or Tennessee, to name just three. Places where it's just not so expensive to live. A place where maybe my fiance and I can maybe get a house.
Hmm.
Um, Also, a place where production is a lot less. So the great thing about being an artist or an actor or a producer or director, you don't have to be in Hollywood anymore like you used to. Um, you can be in anywhere and then just get your distribution deal, and people all over the world can see your film. They don't say, "Oh, that filmmaker is from Tennessee. I'm not going to watch his film."
Hmm.
No, you just got to make a great product, a great piece of art, a great piece of music, a great film. People can stream or listen to you all over the world now. It's a renaissance
Hmm.
for independent artists.
Hmm. You mentioned something that I wanted to go back to. You said the reasons why you wanted to go somewhere like where there's no income tax, where the cost of living is lower. What were the other things?
Um, Lower labor costs.
Hmm.
Like if I'm going to shoot a movie in LA, not only do I have to treat every single person as an employee, I got to pay them between $15 and $22 an hour.
Hmm.
Also, my small crew, let's say about 40 or 50 person crew, I got to pay 10 to 20 bucks per car just to park everyone.
Hmm.
Whereas the next movie I'm shooting in Florida, if I bring an actor on for a few days, if they're non-union, I don't have to treat them as an employee. I can pay them as an independent contractor. I can get
Oh, that's right.
locations
In
for
California, you can't have independent contractors very easily anymore,
everyone's
correct?
got to be an employee. Everything's got to be through payroll. Um, I can get locations for next to nothing, like sound stages for really cheap. I don't have to pay for parking. Um, it's just a lot cheaper, a
Hmm.
lot cheaper. So
What's on which is there any particular state that you're actually you and your fiance are looking at, or not yet at the moment?
we're not really serious at it. We're kind of exploring, but the three that popped up, especially for her, because she doesn't want to pay so much money in state income tax on top of the federal income tax. So Tennessee, Texas, and
Florida.
uh, Florida are of interest, but there's a lot of other states where just the general cost of living is very, very cheap. Oklahoma, West Virginia,
Hmm.
quality of life,
Does Tennessee have enough? Is it's officially no income tax?
no income tax.
Hmm. That's interesting because that's a place that has. And I think Tennessee has mountains. Tennessee has lakes.
Yeah,
Tennessee has changing seasons, but it's
yeah.
not as brutal as New York or Maine. Colorado
Correct.
winter, something like that. That's an interesting place. Maybe I should take a
Music
look at
capital of the
pictures.
world, right there in Nashville. A lot of creative people, a lot of
Also,
films
however,
being shot there.
Tennessee is the country's center of Tren de Aragua, or whatever that Venezuelan gang
I
is.
heard.
They've apparently taken over every major city in, and they have their hands completely tied. That the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation chief was on Jesse Waters the other day talking about they are doing horrible things, but if we do not see them doing it, even though we know that they are planning and plotting, we know that they're illegal immigrants and they came over here legally, and we know that they're criminals and they're of gang affiliation. Under the Biden-Harris administration executive order and rules, we can do nothing because ICE is not going to participate. And he said, we're counting down the days until January 20th when game on. And he goes, we
Yeah,
can
no,
finally go after.
everything's going to change, and that's another reason to leave LA. It's just crime is rampant here. When they defunded the police, I mean, it just went up immediately. Less police stations. Um, you can shoplift. You can take anything you want out of a store as long as it's less than $950.
Yeah, it's
I see it. I see it at the dollar store. Even people just walk out. Nobody says anything,
you've
and
seen this.
we're all paying extra at those stores due to the billions and billions that are being shoplifted every year in California.
Unbelievable.
So
Your fiance, is she a dentist now?
yeah,
And she's licensed in California?
yeah, and there's certain states that are reciprocal, so she can't operate in certain. So that's another thing that she's investigating.
I was just curious. I know it's a lot easier for dentists and doctors to move than it is for lawyers. Like for me to become a lawyer in Florida, it's going to cost me $6,000 in bar fees and training costs, and 6 months of studying to try to pass the Florida bar. But I imagine it's got to be a little bit easier for a dentist.
Certain states it is, certain states it's not. Certain states she'd have to go to dental school all over again. Like
You're kidding me. What state
will
would want?
take like a year or so, of course. So every state is different.
Wow. Now that's different for do doctors have to go through medical school again in certain states, or is it?
Doctors are a different thing. All I know about is dentists. That certain states are very tough in terms of extra fees and licenses and schooling. Other states are very clearly reciprocal, and the states that do that are smart because if they want more dentists, they can attract more dentists. Like Florida apparently needs a lot of dentists right now because so many people have been moving there.
Hmm. Fascinating.
So
Very, very interesting.
I call it economic osmosis.
Mhm.
If you have places that are so overregulated and so expensive and the quality of life is bad, and you have a cheaper place like somebody mentioned here, Ohio is cheap, better quality of life maybe, then maybe some people from California will start moving to Ohio.
Grammar note: something I would always tell my students, my English students, is don't use the word cheap to talk about something that doesn't cost a lot. Years ago, cheap used to mean only one thing, which was low quality. But English teachers over the years found that teaching new students inexpensive, which is a four-syllable word, was very difficult for foreign students. So they started to use the word cheap to mean also inexpensive, but it never shed its original uh, etymological history of being poor quality. So I always tell, and this Jamie too, because I don't. Whenever I hear someone say cheap, all I think of is horrible quality because I am a purist and I think of where it came from.
Good point.
And I recommend anybody who's speaking the English language, don't use the word cheap unless you want to say something negative and pejorative about that item. I don't think Ohio is cheap. That makes it sound like it's a poor quality state. I think it's a very
It's lower
inexpensive,
cost.
the
It's
lower
less
cost state,
expensive.
but it's still, yeah. So it's not a real criticism because you're wrong. You're what I'm saying. You're not wrong,
It's a good note. It's a good
But
note.
psychologically, I think you might have an impact that is unintended, because when people tell me that, I always think, oh, do they mean it as inexpensive, or do they mean it as poor quality? So anyway, yeah, Ohio, I've heard is that's the thing I'm upset about Florida too. When I moved, even just 3 years since I've been here, that whole osmosis thing is, you're right. Everyone's leaving all the high cost, high regulated places, but they're coming to all these low cost, low regular places. Florida, Miami Beach, it is it, inflated so much. Everything is so much more expensive, even than it was 3 years ago. And it's because
Yeah.
all the New Yorkers, all the people from New Jersey, all the people from Connecticut. I meet New Yorkers every day here. I'm from New York. No kidding. Where are you from? I'm from Westchester. Oh, I'm from Queens. I'm from Staten Island. And it's funny. I think, I don't know who it was. Maybe all the people from New York are coming down here. Florida is maybe New York, and New York is now voted. New York almost went Trump, only 10 points off. And it's like, Trump is not deep blue. Actually, New York is no longer deep blue. And I'm wondering, like, is Florida and Texas and Tennessee and Ohio, are they going to become the new horrible places, the horribly high cost, regulated places, and maybe New York and California eventually, because they can't sustain themselves? I honestly, I don't know how New York and California are going to survive when all of these wealthy people are leaving, all the people who are making lots of money are leaving, and they keep.
And all the corporations are leaving. I mean, Chevron was the latest huge Fortune 500 company to leave California about 2 weeks ago. I mean, that's a massive, massive tax base.
Where did they go?
Texas.
Texas.
Just like Elon Musk moved a lot of his companies to Texas.
Yeah, a lot of the East Coast companies are coming down to Florida, and those West Coast companies in Seattle and Oregon and California, they seem to be
Silicon
moving.
Valley, a lot of the tech companies are moving to Texas or Tennessee.
Let me just look at some of these final comments. We have about 4 more minutes before we will wrap up here with Scott. Jamie says, I was very unhealthy in my 20s. Nicholas says, let's go, by the way. I was told I would be on medication for the rest of my life at 28. I wasn't good with that. I had to do my own research on the garbage in our food. And I imagine that as a happy ending, because here you still are at age 97, Jamie. It's amazing. No, she's not.
You got me.
Congratulations, Scott, says Jamie. I think she's talking about your engagement.
Thank you.
And Jamie says Ohio is inexpensive. I'm translating. Come on over. Is it weird to find an amethyst crystal in my backyard, says Goku Black? I'm not the guy to ask. I don't know anything about geology in that sense. Scott, do you know anything about amethyst crystals? I would say if you found an amethyst crystal, that's a good day. I'd love to find an amethyst crystal in my backyard. Finally, James said some of it in Ohio is low quality. Take Cleveland, for example. But look at that. See, that's now we've got the discussion. Maybe Cleveland is cheap, but Ohio in general is inexpensive. That would make you roughly 100. What if you are you saying if she's 97, that would make me 100. Ladies and gentlemen, just in conclusion, I wanted to again remind you to please consider subscribing to my channel. My name is Monroe Mann. I do music, comedy, improv, talking about law, psychology, motivation, and of course I bring on great special guests such as this gentleman here, Scott DuPont, who runs the website financeyourmovie.com and the eponymous YouTube channel of the same name, Finance Your Movie. It's a new channel. Maybe you can give him some love. I look forward to subscribing myself. I know he just created it recently. We're going to get some great content on there, I'm sure. Scott, maybe just in the last few minutes, you can tell people what they might see on your YouTube channel when you start posting content, and what they could find at financeyourmovie.com, and any final words that you have to share with the audience.
Well, Finance Your Movie, I have a free podcast I drop every week. It's on all the different podcast platforms. And then any of you movie buffs there, if you happen to be a Burt Reynolds fan, our latest movie I just produced called Burt Reynolds, The Last Interview with Quentin Tarantino, that is free on a lot of the streaming channels like Tubi, Plex, etc. So if you're a Burt Reynolds fan, check it out. You'll enjoy it.
I have a follow up. This is a new project? I don't remember you doing something.
This is a new project that we spun off from Movie Money Confidential. We
Yeah.
hooked up with Quentin Tarantino. After Burt passed away, we found out this was his last movie and his last interview he ever did. So it's a fascinating look at a very inspiring man's life. And Quentin Tarantino has some really interesting words to say as well when we went over to his house to film.
Wow, Scott, you every time I talk to Scott, and we don't we're good friends, but we don't talk to each other on a daily basis. He's always doing something super cool, something brand new. He's meeting and working with some more and more fascinating people, and so I hope we can all check out that movie. It is called again, Burt Reynolds, The Last Movie.
Burt Reynolds, The Last Interview
Burt Reynolds,
with
The
Quentin
Last Movie.
Tarantino.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jamie, for the super chat of $9.99. Says thank you, Monroe. Hope you're
Oh
back
wow!
again,
Thanks,
Scott.
Jamie.
So what I want to do, I'm going to make a new policy here on the channel, and maybe this will give you guys an incentive to help me out further. Obviously, I'm trying to turn this into a full-time career. It's a very onerous journey. It's very difficult and emotionally draining. But obviously, you guys, part of the reason you super chatted me today is because of the guest as well. And it's not just me. Once I reach the $4,000 a month mark, which means I am finally making a living from doing this, I'm going to create some arrangement where if anyone super chats during the live stream when I have a guest, the guest can share in some of that revenue, and or the guest can ask that it be donated to a charity, or I don't know. I have to figure out the whole thing about it, but I just want to acknowledge to Scott and to all of you that when people super chat when I'm here, it's not just me. It's kind of like a production, a film production of some sort. And so I don't know when that will happen, Scott. So you're going to be a guest for free for the foreseeable future.
I'm happy to come on. I
But-
enjoyed talking to you fine folks that are on the chat, and hope to be back sometime in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And Scott, when you start doing live streams, which I hope you will eventually start to do, I hope that you will invite me on. I'd love to be a guest on your channel.
Absolutely, I can learn from you as well.
Absolutely, and I always learn from you, ladies and gentlemen. Let me before Scott goes, let me just put Jamie up here on the board. Jamie, 26. Jamie.
All right, Jamie.
For
I'm impressed with the generosity of everyone.
I always am too, and it's and you always see at the Oscars. Last anecdote, Scott, before you go, and you always see at the Oscars, and they give these speeches. I want to thank them, and then someone says, "Oh, I want to thank you for the fans." Without you, and I always find it. I don't know. I always find it disingenuous, and I don't really feel like they really mean it. Only because I don't think they've really actually met their fans or interacted with them because they're movie stars and they do the movies. But with YouTube Live, like we're interacting with them every single minute of the live stream. And when you say I appreciate the generosity and this and that, it's like, oh my gosh, I really do. And I always say thank you guys, all of you who watched today. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing to me and to Scott. Thank you for sharing the super chats, because it's what keeps me going and gives me hope that this could become a thing.
I just want to give a final shout out to my friend John Travolta, because he is one of the movie stars where when he's giving an acceptance speech at the Oscars, he really, really, really does mean it when he is grateful for his fans. He's a very humble person if you ever get to meet him.
I thank you for that. Oh, Jamie,
and Tom Cruise as well.
What was Scott's channel? I think it's Finance Your Movie. Is that the
Yeah.
name of it? If they just search for it, can they find it by Finance
Yeah.
Your Movie?
Yeah, Finance Your Movie.
Okay. If any of you have any problems finding it, eventually once this goes public on YouTube and whenever YouTube encodes it, I'll put it in the description of the video so you guys can find that as well. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen.
Take care,
Scott, have a
everyone.
wonderful night. Thanks for joining me again. I appreciate your time and your
Always
expertise.
good to see you, buddy.
Always. Thank you, my friend.
Take care.
Bye, guys. See you.